your problem, Mr. Melvin Gates. Anything else you want to tell me on that, or any?
I'm just bewildered by it being locked and I could not go into my property as a taxpayer.
But it's unlocked.
I'm talking about before.
Okay, but that's been solved now. And before, I ordered that because the club was in illegal operation.
But the club was in operation of illegal,
Right.
but my property is not illegal.
Okay. Okay.
That's what I'm addressing, the property.
Okay. Well, all I'm addressing today is whether or not you can get current and temporary access to your land. And it sounds like you have that. So is there anything else you want? So your complaint is up until July 1st, you could not.
I could not
From the time it
access
was
my
closed
property.
On or around, let me see, June, well, the hearing was on June 17th. I think the closure
Happened on the
was a
17th.
few days before that. So your complaint would run from when it was locked in June until July 1st. Okay, well, that's been addressed in my view for now. You may have an additional complaint down the road. All right, Mr. George Gates, anything you want to state in that regard? You can access your home now there and come and go as you please.
Yes, since they opened the gate, but before that, you know, I worked and the gates were locked.
Right,
And I got off at 12 o'clock at night.
okay.
I gotta walk through a wooded area
Right.
in order to get to my house, to
Right.
get to my
Well,
boat.
we can address that in a final hearing as to
Okay.
whether or not you can have work crews there. What you cannot do under the court's still temporary order is you cannot reopen Club Rolex and have parties going on out there to the general public. Just so we're clear on that. I wanna make sure I've communicated clearly. What you can't do is reopen during any hours of the day or night, and start having parties there again with liquor and open to the public and that sort of thing. Have I communicated that clearly?
Okay, being that I abode on the property, sometime I usually go over there, and I usually cook me a meal or stuff over there, for me personally to eat, maybe a friend or two, or my kids come over and visit me, you know.
You mean at your home where you live there?
I mean, I usually
The
go
house where you
over, I
live.
usually go over to the building.
Well, the building's off limits until we have a final hearing. I mean, you can come and, can he get into the building now, or it's kind of boarded up?
He actually
I
can.
can.
The way I boarded it up, it's a front highway, and I only put a half of a sheet of plywood. He can actually go under that and go right into the building.
Okay,
Can't go through the back doors, but he
okay.
can go into the front door.
Okay, what I wanna be clear about is if you or your brother Melvin or your nephews who've not appeared here at any time, Tyrone Sumter and Moses Gates or any other person, attempt to reopen to the general public and start serving liquor again, and unlicensed business, serving minors, then there's gonna be a problem. So I wanna make sure I've communicated clearly, because last time, Mr. George Gates, you testified under oath that, you know, this was just for a few of your friends to come over. So I don't want you thinking here today, because you're telling me you wanna have a few friends and family over for a cookout, that suddenly you're back open for business. Because quite frankly, sir, I'll remind you, I found that your testimony was frankly not credible at all. You know, your brother's was, Melvin, I appreciated your testimony. You were very straightforward and honest, but you're stuck up in Greenville. But when you tell me you wanna have a few friends over, and family, I'm not gonna begrudge you that. That's your property. You can have someone come over and cook for them and have a few family or friends gather. We're not going from a few friends to 100 people suddenly showing up, and advertisements, those advertisements I looked on here that you didn't know anything about. And quite frankly, sir, you're lucky I didn't instruct the sheriff's office to investigate you for perjury, because I found your testimony, Mr. George Gates, just frankly unbelievable and laughable. For you to sit here and tell me you were just having a few friends over. You all were selling liquor unlicensed. And I need to tell you this too, you know, last time I mentioned that your property is in jeopardy. I mean, the 3 people who got injured there, and I'm not gonna go through that again, but the young lady is a victim of sexual assault, shootings and other things. They've got, I think, up to about 3 years to file suit against you and get a judgment if they prevail, and take your land. But that's not in front of me. The other thing, you've got jeopardy facing you, and it's not in front of me, but I say this to emphasize how important it is you abide by that court order and not go around it. And if I give you permission to have a few family friends and have family over for dinner, that suddenly there's now 100 people in that parking lot. So that's why I emphasize this. You both are still in jeopardy of the South Carolina Department of Revenue filing suit against you for uncollected taxes, for SLED, filing ABC liquor violations against you, both criminally and civilly. So your jeopardy is not over, and it doesn't end at this court. You need to be aware of that. I've encouraged you to get attorneys. You and your nephews were operating a business, selling liquor, food, without DHAC being there, no liquor license. And it wasn't just a few friends. So, you're here because of the consequences you and your nephews brought in this case. And again, I revisit the testimony and the videos, and it was just terrible what y'all had going on there. By your own testimony, you were having people check their guns at the door. So, anyway, that's my question to you. When you say you want family and friends, what number are we pondering?
You talking about
family reunion coming up or any event like that?
That's passed. That was just last week on the 4th of July. We normally have that, so we didn't. That just passed. The family reunion 4th of July we have every year.
Right.
That just
That's
passed.
done.
But
done
that is passed.
Right.
But I figure about 20 here people calling my.
I'll give you 20, not counting yourself.
Not counting myself.
I'll give you 20 people, not counting yourself. And at the risk of repeating myself, if it turns into a Club Rolex event where you're selling liquor and charging admission and it's open to the public and you're advertising, there's gonna be problems. If I communicated clearly?
Okay, yes, Judge,
Okay.
could I say something? For the advertising, and so, I mean, that came off of, a lot of that advertising came off of social media. I'm just saying that if someone else was to just put that,
No,
I mean,
you're a defendant in this case and you're responsible for that property, just like your brother's responsible.
I understand.
And now you're responsible for the conduct of anyone, according to my court order, who violates this court order. So if unbeknownst, that's like if I got property, but it's called, in the law, it's called willful blindness. If you willfully turn a blind eye and turn your head to someone else doing something to benefit you and your property illegally and lawfully, you're gonna be held accountable for it. So
I wanna be clear on that. I mean, so.
No, sir, that's not gonna happen.
No, but what I'm saying is, just say, I mean, if a person who I don't willfully know actually does it, and then I don't actually really know about them advertising something,
You're gonna be responsible.
You
It's
know,
as simple as that. Yes, sir. I'm holding you accountable. That's your property, your brother's property, and you all were operating a business. Your brother might not have had full knowledge, and I'll grant him that because he was up in Greenville. But you were operating a business with full knowledge that you were all in charge of admission, checking guns at the door like Tombstone in 1880. You were selling liquor, selling beer, selling food, all without tax stamps and tax certificates or DHAC certificates. And I need to emphasize to you, your jeopardy is not over in this little court. All I can do, and I wanna be clear, my authority has limits, and I fully acknowledge that. All I can do is either let you continue to run the business, because I find it's not a nuisance, or close it down because I find it is a nuisance. You are still in jeopardy from the South Carolina Department of Revenue for collecting money and not paying taxes. You're still in jeopardy with SLED for civil and criminal penalties, for selling liquor without a license. DHAC, I can't emphasize enough, your property is at risk, as I've told you, from the 3 or more victims whose, death or injuries resulted from stuff going on in that club, sue you in civil court. And they got, I'm not an expert in this, but I think they got up to 3 years in the statute of limitations to bring suit against you. And I've already told you, I think you're gonna lose your property, Mr. Melvin. Okay, I feel bad for you.
That's what
But
you
this
said.
ain't over. What goes on here is the nuisance ordinance. And so I'm holding you and your brother Melvin Gates accountable. And if all of a sudden advertisements goes up and cars start arriving, one, people are gonna get arrested for trespassing, because I'm not lifting the trespass order. I'm giving you permission to have up to 20 guests at any time, not counting yourself, to be on the property, and not counting your brother Melvin Gates, because he's a property owner too.